Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda and welcome to my channel Ignition Time, where I give you breaking news alerts, balanced news about the state of the economy and what this means to you. Now, the June jobs report from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics was actually released. Now, before I get into the numbers and before we listen to what the president said, let me be clear. This June jobs report was based on survey data from the 7th through the 13th of June. So those are the numbers we are looking at right now. Now, everything that's happened in the second half of June, the surge across states like Texas, Arizona, Florida, and the impact in other parts of the country, that has not yet been reflected in these numbers. So we have to take that into consideration. So I want my viewers and subscribers to be aware of that. But there's no denying that the jobs report, the June jobs report, did shatter all expectations. In fact, let me give you some specific numbers before we listen to what President Trump has to say. So the economy added almost 5 million jobs in the month of June. And this, like I said, shattered all expectations. To be specific, 4.8 million jobs were added, and this is the most on record going back all the way to 1939. So there were a significant number of jobs added. Also, this is the largest monthly jobs gain in the history of the country. It's a huge number. Also, the unemployment rate fell by more than 2%, so it fell from 13.3% all the way down to 11.1%. Now, it is the third highest on record. The economy has indeed recovered almost a third of the jobs that were lost in March and April. So, in other words, in March and April, the economy lost 22.1 million jobs, and in May and June the economy added back 7.5 million jobs. So almost a third of the jobs that were lost in the months of March and April have actually been regained, have been recovered. Now, with that being said, not everyone is benefiting equally. Some of the low wage earners, some of the middle income earners are still being left behind. In fact, some statistics show that African American unemployment fell from 16.8% to 15.4%. So the African American community did benefit, but not to the same degree. And also the Hispanic community, Hispanic unemployment fell from 17.6% to 14.5%. So there's still a long way to go. There's still a disproportionate impact to individuals in the economy, but this does not take away from the fact that the June jobs report data did shatter all expectations. In fact, let's listen to what President Trump said. This was streamed live on Fox News a few hours ago, and let's break down these comments and let's listen to the president and see what he has to say.
Announce the spectacular news for American workers and American families and for our country as a whole. There's not been anything like this, record-setting. It was just put out that the United States economy added almost 5 million jobs in the month of June, shattering all expectations. I was watching this morning and the expectations were much lower than that. The stock market is doing extremely well, which means to me jobs. That's what it means, jobs. This is the largest monthly jobs gain in the history of our country. The unemployment rate fell by more than 2 percentage points, down to just about 11%. We're down to the 11% number. We started at a number very much higher than that. As you know, we broke the record last month, and we broke it again this month in an even bigger way. This news comes on top of May's extraordinary jobs report, which was revised upwards, by the way, to 2.7 million jobs. It was 2.5, that was last month, and that was a record setter. But it actually got a little bit better. We revised it, and it was revised upward to 2.7 million jobs, for a combined total of 7.5 million jobs created in the last 2 months, and that's a record by many millions of jobs. So it's 7.5 million jobs created in the last 2 months alone. Today's announcement proves that our economy is roaring back. It's coming back extremely strong. We have some areas where we're putting out the flames or the fires, and that's working out well. We're working very closely with governors, and I think it's working out very well. I think you'll see that shortly. In June, we added 2.1 million leisure and hospitality jobs, 740,000 retail jobs, 568,000 education and healthcare jobs, 357,000 service jobs. These are all historic numbers. And 356,000 manufacturing jobs. And manufacturing looks like it's ready to really take off at a level that it's never been before. And a lot of that has to do with our trade policy, because we're bringing manufacturing back to our country. And these take a long time to get going, and they're now going. So these are historic numbers. I'm really happy when I see 356,000 manufacturing jobs, and that's just a small number compared to what it will be soon because of our great trade deals. African American workers, really happily for me, made historic gains with 404,000 jobs added last month alone, and that's a record. And the second largest jump will be last month, and what we have, if you add the 2 months together, it's 700,000 jobs for African American workers added in the last 2 months, and that's a record by a lot. Likewise, Hispanic employment is up by 1.5 million jobs, a record by a lot. Hispanic employment up 1.5 million jobs. 3 million more women were employed in the month of June, a record. Never had a number like that. Workers with a high school education or less made the biggest strides of all. So people that have just a high school education or have less than a high school education, with unemployment, those without a high school diploma dropped a full 3.3 percentage.
So if you want to see the rest of the interview, if you want to watch the entire interview, I will link to it down in the description below, so you can check out this YouTube video and watch it on the Fox News website, because that was released on their website. Now, as I've covered in other videos on my channel, the hardest hit industries during this pandemic have been restaurants, hotels, travel, and entertainment. Again, that's restaurants, hotels, travel, and entertainment. Now, most of the low-wage earners and the middle-income earners in the economy work in these industries. Imagine that restaurants are closed. Imagine that hotels are closed. Imagine that people aren't traveling or people aren't going to the movies. That is what has really hurt the low-wage earners and the middle-income earners. So those sectors are the hardest hit sectors in the economy, and there's been a disproportionate impact. A lot of individuals have not been impacted by the pandemic as much because a lot of individuals can work from home. A lot of individuals essentially have been able to make adjustments. But again, the disproportionate impact to the low wage earners and the middle income earners is what has made this such a challenge for the federal government. On top of that, and I've covered this in other videos on my channel, the extent of the outbreak is different in different regions across the country. Even though this is a national number, even though President Trump is talking about these encouraging numbers, you know, as my viewer, as my subscriber, that if you're in the state of Texas right now, Arizona, Florida, Idaho, those states have been badly impacted. If you and I were having this conversation, if I was making this video a month ago or even 6 weeks ago, New York and New Jersey were very badly impacted. So there are many factors at work here. There's the type of job that you have. Again, if you're a low wage earner or a middle income earner working in one of the 4 hardest hit sectors, travel, entertainment, hotels, restaurants, those are the hardest hit sectors. If on the other hand, you're doing a job where you can easily work from home, you can do something online, then you haven't been impacted as badly. So there is the type of work that you do, and more importantly, there is the extent of the pandemic in your particular state. There are the social distancing guidelines, there are the state mandated laws in your state, and there's also your employer. Is your employer reopening? Is your employer giving you your job back? Is your employer cutting your hours, or is your employer letting you go? So there is no one size fits all approach in all of this. That's just the nature of the environment that we are in right now. But there is no denying the fact that the jobs numbers have shattered expectations. This is good news. This does indicate that we are on the way to recovery. Now, my belief is that because this survey was done from the 7th of June to the 13th of June, all the bad numbers, all the surge that has taken place in the last couple of weeks of June, and as I'm recording this video in the early part of July, those numbers are likely to be reflected in the July jobs numbers. But again, the fact that the June jobs report beat expectations is something that is very encouraging, is something that we should that we should feel hopeful about. And let's hope that the states that are being impacted right now, the cases that they're having, the individuals who are being impacted, let's hope that they're able to get a handle on this situation so that that can result in a quick recovery and hopefully a quick turnaround in those states, which, by the way, will in turn start to reflect on the July numbers, on the August numbers. The signs are clear. The economy is remarkably resilient, and we are starting to bounce back. However, there are state-specific, there are employer-specific, and there are outbreak-specific factors that will play into your particular situation. But again, we should all feel optimistic about these numbers that have come out. These are encouraging numbers, whichever way you look at it. Definitely watch that entire interview below if you're interested in learning more and watching the full interview. Thank you so much for watching. I normally release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week, but when there's an important breaking news alert like this, I do release the announcement to my subscribers. If you're not an existing subscriber yet, please click subscribe below. Please enable notifications so you get an instant update and an analysis from me. My goal is to read between the lines. It's very important what our public officials say, but it's also important to read between the lines and to give these kinds of interviews the proper context, which is what I try and do. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like below. I would really appreciate that. That does help me out a lot, and that does help out the YouTube algorithm. Once again, my name is Dr. Nitin Choda. My channel is Ignition Time. That's youtube.com/Ignition Time. I'm looking forward to bringing you more breaking news, more balanced news alerts, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.